Hey folks, how's it going today? It's been a while since I've been on here on one of these Facebook Lives. It's been the 10:59 Facebook Live that I was doing for a while. I don't remember how many episodes I had gotten in, but I'd gotten in quite a few. And this last month, like March, got totally blown up. And that's why today's topic is best way to pick up with your training after a break, because essentially I had a forced break and now I'm getting back into it. And part of that break caused me to miss a bunch of these Facebook Lives and actually YouTube Lives too. I had started doing them with YouTube as well because so I don't want to diss on you YouTube viewers. It started out as a Facebook Live thing, 10:59 live broadcast, and blah, blah, blah. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name's Henry Beyer with Strong for Life, and it's awesome to have you here. I'm going to take this thing off because that just gives you, I think that's a little bit better. The wide angle lens, which I use for shooting my morning movement and mobility, which I do during the week, 8:30 Eastern time, and my video, some other videos and stuff that I do when I'm working with clients, I use that. Anyhow, it feels a little odd to be back on here, but I want to say thanks to you replay viewers for catching this later on. And thanks for you who are on here now. It's awesome to have you here. So the way all this works is that I do a quote of the day. That's today's quote of the day. And I was like, wow, I wonder what the last one was that I did. It's been so long. And the last one that I did, I'll tell you what the last one that I did. It was many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our point of view, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I like that one. And today's is L. So the way that I do the quote of the days is I just have this collected list of quotes alphabetically organized, and I just go through the alphabet. And we're on to L now. And I just go through them, A, B, C through X, Y, Z, and then I just repeat that over again. So the number of episodes I have done was the first 26 or so, because not every letter has a quote for it. Like Q, I don't think has one. That might be the only one. There might be another one in there. So there was those 26 or 25 or so that I've done, and now I'm back up to L. So that's the number of episodes that I've done. And March just blew it all to hell. Hey, welcome, viewer. Nice to have you here. So March, I got a really bad sinus infection in March, and that's why I had to stop training for much of March. Well, there was like 2 weeks of missing training in March because of that. And then I had a week or 10 days of spring break. And so that was another reason why I missed training. So that's why today's episode is best way to pick up with your training after a break, because depending on the length of the break and how much training you had done before you had that break will influence what you want to do to get back into the groove of things. And I think that's one of the things that is a challenge, is really finding that rhythm that you had before things went sideways, or you had a planned break or whatever it is. But it's still getting back in the training rhythm takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of time to get it worked out. And I'm finding that right now. And part of that has to do with I'm going through a little bit of a change in my thinking about fitness, not in the importance of fitness, because it's absolutely necessary to get regular exercise, but in what should be included in your training. And I think you're going to have these stages as you get older and as you get more experienced and as your interests change and as your body changes. There's a lot of the how you approach your training and what you include in your training and what your training focuses on will change. And I'm finding that to be the case right now. And so that's also adding the forced break is contributing to sort of figuring out the rhythm of this new approach to training that I'm going to try right as moving forward. And getting all that stuff worked out just, takes some time. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But let's I got a little itch here. But let's just think about like categories of where you might fall into, and based on the length of time your training was interrupted, and then as well as that is where you were in your training before the break started. I'm going to just use myself as a reference point to begin with, and then we can talk about variations on that. So my regular training has been happening since 2015. I have my this is my logbook here, Snoopy and Tweety Bird logbook, and started doing this back in February of, well, a little bit in January and February of 2015. And as of, right before March 8th was when I sort of got sick and I had to stop training. So at that point, I had done the training days that were included in this book, 936 training days since 2015. Actually, there's more than that because I have 100 training days that I had done. The point here is I've done a lot of training days, a lot of consistent training in the past 6 years. And so when I come back, and my break is pretty short. It's only literally, there was only about 8 days when I hadn't done something. I got sick around the March 8th and was sort of out for 2 weeks. But I went running. I started going running again on March 16th. So not a very long time. But I also had sort of backed off a little bit on the strength training. That March 8th was a strength training day. So I hadn't done any lifting at all for almost a month. But for me, coming back, I would have to do a few days of just lifting some easier weights, maybe doing less volume or something like that. And I would be back into the groove pretty quickly. And that's based on the fact that I had 6 years of training before, of consistent training before that. My body's used to it. But if you miss a week of training, let's say you had a training day scheduled, you could take an easy day and then get right back in line with your regular training. Even if you've missed a couple of weeks, you might drop back. Let's say you had, when you had to go on a business trip or something like that, and you had a few training sessions in there that you missed. You could either start right up where you left off, or you could, if you wanted to, you could just move back a couple of training sessions and just start over again. I mean, that's a pretty easy way to approach it if you have been training regularly and you're used to the training. The further out you get from, like if you're a month out or 6 weeks out or 8 weeks out, then you want to approach it differently. So you would want to do something called basically anatomical adaptation, because your tissues quickly begin to weaken and soften. And so if you have off for 5 or 6 weeks, you want to take a little bit of time, to a couple weeks or so, of just doing higher volume, lower weight type of exercises, just to bring your soft tissues, like your cartilage, your ligaments, your tendons, and things like that, back up to a level where you would be able to start lifting the weights that you were lifting previously. I mean, it's definitely better to be on the conservative side with this sort of thing, especially the longer out you've been. And the same thing goes if you are, let's say you, like in February or January, let's just say January, because we're into April. So your New Year's resolution was to get fitter, and you are someone who hadn't trained for a while. Anything over 6 months would be a while, but if it's even longer than that, a year, 3 years, and then you're like, I really need to do something, I'm going to start training. What's so funny is I didn't even do the quote of the day. I just realizing this. So we're going to take a quick little detour right here, and we're going to talk about the quote of the day. I talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then I just jumped into this. So we're showing this. This is the quote of the day from Lao Tzu. That's the Tao Te Ching guy. And the quote is, "Nature's way is simple and easy, but men prefer what is intricate and artificial." And when I first read it, I was like, well, how am I going to integrate that? Or how does that apply? Or should I just let it be a quote of the day? And then I started thinking about fitness is definitely one of these areas where where as humans tend to do, we can overcomplicate the stuff that we're doing. There's, when it comes to getting fit, there's very tried and true ways of doing things. And yes, we can look at research and see, well, what's the best way for doing this? But I think when you're talking about research, for the most part, like if you are an elite athlete and you're really trying to be like on the edge, the cutting edge, then a lot of the research that's happening, I think, will benefit you. But if you just are like want to get strong or run faster or, build your endurance, I mean, there's plenty of evidence of what works and what doesn't work. And you don't have to be going for the latest, trickiest thing in order to make that stuff happen. And honestly, the simpler you can make it, it may take longer than, maybe some hacks that people are promoting. But the thing about fitness is the longer you do it, the longer it lasts. So if you build up strength really quickly because of some, neat way to, schedule your training, and you get strong quickly, well, that strength is going to go away quickly. If you build up your strength, your conditioning, your endurance, your stamina, all those things over time, you do it slowly over time, it's going to take longer for that stuff to disappear. And so I think I think we can just try and complicate things too much in the fitness world. You go out, you get some cardio, right? long, slow distance will build up your cardio over the long term. It will have a nice positive effect on you. You go to the gym, you lift some weights, you do it slowly over time. You progressively add volume, progressively add weight. You're going to get stronger. And maybe when you hit a plateau, then there might be room to try and do something a little differently. But until you do that, the 3 sets of 5, going out for runs and adding 10% a week to your volume, things like that, they work. And they will help you improve your health and fitness. So you don't have to do a lot of tricky stuff when it comes to getting fit. It just takes patience, and it takes a willingness to do the same thing over and over and over again. So, and there is the idea of same but different, but the difference is you're doing the same things, but you might be doing them a slightly different way. You might be doing them with a different exercise. You're not totally revamping the whole shenanigans. You got squats, you got deadlifts, you have bench press, you have overhead presses, you got pull-ups, you got horizontal rows, you have power moves like the clean and jerk and the snatch. And you got sprinting, and you got some long, slow distance running. I mean, that's like, so here's my analogy. What are there? 8 notes, something like that. 8 notes that in music, there's 8 notes, and you can make, you know how much music is out there. From those notes, so much music can be made. From those, you got, well, let's say knee dominant exercises, hip dominant exercises, core exercises, upper body exercises, power exercises. My video, everything froze. All right. What is happening here? We're going to bust.